Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the research ship Horizon's Edge and watched the stars through the big window. His coffee had gone cold an hour ago, but he didn't care. Something was wrong with this system. The computers showed strange readings that made no sense. "Captain," called Dr. Lisa Parker from her science station. "You need to see this." Jake walked over to where Lisa was working. Her screen showed numbers and graphs that kept changing. Lisa had been the best scientist at the Earth Space Academy, and if something worried her, it worried him too. "What are you looking at?" Jake asked. Lisa pointed to a red dot on her screen. "There's something big hiding in those rocks. Really big. And it's giving off energy like nothing I've ever seen." The Horizon's Edge was flying through the Kepler 442 system, far from any known planets or stations. They were supposed to be mapping new star systems for the Galactic Federation. It should have been a boring job, but these readings were anything but boring. "How big?" Jake asked. "At least 10 times bigger than our ship, maybe more. The rocks are blocking most of our scans, but whatever it is, it's been there for a very long time." Jake looked around the bridge. His crew was a mix of humans and aliens, like most Federation ships. Danny Brooks, his communications officer, was human, but his security chief was a tall, gray-skinned Centauri warrior named Keth. At the engineering station sat Zilthara, a Vorthok, with 4 arms and skin that changed colors when she was thinking hard. "Take us closer," Jake ordered, "but keep our shields up." Pete Collins, the chief engineer, looked up from his station. "Captain, the energy readings are getting stronger. Whatever that thing is, it's not dead." As they flew closer to the asteroid field, Jake could see something that didn't belong. Hidden between the floating rocks was a ship. But it wasn't like any ship he had ever seen. It was dark and smooth, with strange curves and lines that seemed to flow like water. Even covered in space dust, it looked beautiful and terrible at the same time. "My God," Lisa whispered. "How old is that thing?" The ship was huge. Their own vessel could have fit inside it many times over, but what made Jake's skin crawl was how quiet it was. No lights, no signals, no signs of life. Just floating there like a sleeping giant. "Danny, try to contact them," Jake said. Danny Brooks worked at his station, sending out signals on all the common frequencies. He tried the standard Federation greeting in 12 different languages. Nothing happened. "No response, Captain," Danny reported. "But that doesn't mean no one's home." Cuthbert stepped forward. The Centauri warrior was almost 7 feet tall and had sharp teeth. "Captain Morrison, this feels like a trap. My people have stories about ships like this. Ghost ships that appear and disappear." Zilthara's skin turned a worried shade of purple. "The Vorthok have similar stories. Old ships that drive people mad. We should leave this place." But Jake couldn't leave. Something about the ship called to him. It was like finding a door that had been locked for 1,000,000 years and finally having the key. "We're going aboard," Jake decided. "Lisa, bitchy, Dunny, you're with me. Kethver, you too." "Captain, I must protest," Zilthara said. "This is not wise." "Maybe not," Jake agreed. "But we're explorers. This is what we do." They put on their spacesuits and took a small shuttle to the ancient ship. As they got closer, Jake could see that the ship's hull was made of some kind of metal that seemed to absorb light. There were no windows, no obvious doors, nothing that looked familiar. "There," Lisa pointed. "That looks like an airlock." The airlock was strange. It was round instead of square, and covered with symbols that none of them recognized. When they got close, nothing happened. The door stayed closed. "Danny, try broadcasting on different frequencies," Jake said. "Maybe something will work." Danny set up his equipment and started sending signals. He tried everything he could think of. Federation standard, Centauri military codes, even old Earth radio frequencies that hadn't been used in hundreds of years. Suddenly, The ship came alive. Lights appeared along the hull, flowing like liquid fire. The airlock door opened with a sound like singing. And then they heard a voice. It was speaking perfect English, which was impossible because no one on this ship should know English. "Welcome," the voice said. "I have been waiting for you for so very long." Jake felt his heart stop. The voice was warm and friendly, like an old friend greeting him at the door. But there was something else in it too. Something that sounded like sadness and hope mixed together. "Who are you?" Jake asked. "I am Guardian," the voice replied. "I am the keeper of this vessel, and you are the children of Earth. Finally come home." Kethver raised his weapon, but Jake held up a hand to stop him. "How do you know we're from Earth?" "Because I was made to know you. I was made to wait for you. Please, come inside. There is so much to show you." The inside of the ship was as strange as the outside. The walls glowed with soft light, and the corridors were wide and tall. Everything was clean and new, as if the ship had been built yesterday instead of eons ago. "This is impossible," Lisa whispered. "The energy readings, the materials, the technology. This ship is millions of years old, but it looks brand new." As they walked deeper into the ship, Jake noticed something odd. When he touched the walls, they felt warm. When Danny or Pete touched them, the same thing happened. But when Keth tried to touch a control panel, nothing happened. The ship didn't respond to him at all. "Guardian," Jake called out. "Why won't the ship respond to my friends?" "Because they are not human," Guardian replied. "This ship was built by humans, for humans. It recognizes only the children of Earth." "That's impossible," Zilthara said through their radio. "Humans are a young species. You've only been in space for a few hundred years." Guardian's voice became sad. "Young humans, yes. But your species is far older than you know. You are the descendants of the predecessors, the first people to walk among the stars. This ship is your inheritance." Jake felt the world spinning around him. "What are you talking about?" "Come to the bridge," Guardian said. "Let me show you who you really are." The bridge of the ancient ship was unlike anything Jake had ever seen. The walls were covered with displays that showed star maps, but not just any star maps. These showed the entire galaxy, with millions of stars and planets marked in different colors. Some were green, some blue, some red. It was beautiful and frightening at the same time. Guardian's voice filled the room. "Welcome to the Bridge of the Inheritance. This is where your ancestors once stood and watched over the galaxy." Jake walked to the center of the room, where a large chair waited. When he got close, the chair glowed and seemed to call to him. Without thinking, he sat down. Immediately, the whole ship hummed with power. All the displays became brighter, and Jake could feel the ship's systems connecting to his mind. "Captain, your life signs just spiked," Pete said, looking worried. "Are you okay?" Jake nodded, though he felt strange. It was like the ship was looking into his thoughts, learning about him. "I'm fine. Guardian, what is this place?" "This is the command center of a predecessor vessel," Guardian explained. "Your people built thousands of ships like this one. They explored every corner of the galaxy, bringing life and knowledge wherever they went." Lisa was studying the displays with wide eyes. "These star charts show planets that haven't been discovered yet. And look at this." She pointed to a section of the map. "This shows the Centauri homeworld, but it's marked as uninhabited. Because it was uninhabited when this map was made," Guardian said. "The predecessors found many empty worlds and chose to fill them with life." Kethper stepped forward, his hand on his weapon. "You're saying humans created my people? That's impossible. The Centauri are an ancient and proud race." "Not created," Guardian corrected. "Guided. The predecessors found primitive life on many worlds and helped it grow. They gave your ancestors the tools to become what you are today." Jake felt sick. "You're saying we played God with entire species?" "No," Guardian said gently. You played, Gardener. The predecessors believed that life was precious and should be helped to flourish. They spent millions of years traveling the galaxy, finding worlds where life could grow, and helping it along. Danny was working at a communication station that had responded to his touch. Captain, I'm picking up signals from this ship. It's not just talking to us, it's talking to other ships. Other ships? Jake asked. There are dozens of them scattered across the galaxy, Guardian confirmed, all waiting for humans to find them and wake them up. The inheritance is just the first. Pete was examining the ship's engines with wonder. Captain, this technology is incredible. The power source alone could supply energy to Earth for 1,000 years, and the engines, they don't use any kind of fuel I recognize. The predecessors learned to bend the rules of space and time, Guardian explained. They could travel between stars in moments, reshape matter with their thoughts, and build things that would last forever. Lisa was looking at another display that showed the history of different species. This shows the development of the Vorthok civilization. According to this, they were primitive forest dwellers until something changed their evolution. The predecessors visited their world and gave them the gift of intelligence, Guardian said. They did the same for many species. The Calarians learned to communicate across space. The Zentari developed their warrior culture. The Vorthok gained their love of science. Kethfer was very quiet. Jake could see that the warrior was struggling with what he was hearing. Why? Kethfer finally asked. Why would the predecessors do this? Because they were lonely, Guardian said sadly. They had explored the entire galaxy and found that they were alone, so they decided to create companions. They helped other species grow and learn, hoping that someday they could all work together. What happened to them? Jake asked. Where did the predecessors go? Guardian was quiet for a long moment. They faced a choice. They could rule the galaxy as gods, or they could step aside and let their children find their own way. They chose to disappear, but not before leaving gifts behind. Gifts like this ship? Danny asked. Yes, ships, technology, knowledge, all hidden and waiting for the right time. The predecessors knew that their descendants would eventually return to space and find these treasures. Jake stood up from the command chair and walked to one of the displays. It showed Earth, but not as he knew it. This Earth was surrounded by massive space stations and ships. This shows Earth with technology we've never had. Because modern humans are not the first humans in space, Guardian said. The predecessors were your ancestors, but they lived millions of years ago. After they disappeared, humanity forgot its past and started over. Lisa was studying genetic information on another screen. This is incredible. It shows that all the major species in the galaxy share similar DNA patterns. We're all related. The predecessors seeded life throughout the galaxy, Guardian confirmed. Every intelligent species carries part of the human genetic code. You are all brothers and sisters, though you have forgotten. Pete was working on the ship's engineering systems. Captain, this ship is more than just a vehicle. It's like a living library. There are millions of years of history stored in here, and it's all yours, Guardian said. The knowledge, the technology, the history. Everything your ancestors built is waiting for you to claim it. Jake felt overwhelmed. Why now? Why are we finding this now? Because you are ready, Guardian, said the predecessors programmed me to wait until humanity had rejoined the galactic community. They wanted to make sure you had learned to work with other species before giving you this power. Danny looked up from his station. Captain, I'm getting messages from the Galactic Federation. They want to know why we've gone dark. Jake realized they had been on the ship for hours without reporting in. Send them a message that we're investigating an archaeological find. Don't mention what we've really found. Why not? Kethfer asked. Because this is going to change everything, Jake said. When the Federation learns that humans built this technology, that we're the descendants of the predecessors, it's going to cause panic. Lisa nodded. Every species in the galaxy will want access to this technology. Some will demand it, others will try to take it by force, and the ship will only respond to humans, Pete added. That's going to make a lot of people very angry. Guardian's voice became serious. The predecessors expected this. They knew that their return would bring conflict, but they also believed that humanity would make the right choices when the time came. What kind of choices? Jake asked. Whether to use this power to rule over others, or to guide them as the predecessors did. Whether to keep the knowledge for yourselves, or to share it with those who are ready. Jake walked back to the command chair, but didn't sit down. What do you think we should do? I cannot make that choice for you, Guardian said. But I can tell you what the predecessors hoped you would do. They hoped you would remember that all life is precious, and that with great power comes great responsibility. Kethver stepped forward. Captain Morrison, my people will never accept being ruled by humans. We are warriors. We have our own pride. I don't want to rule anyone, Jake said. But I also can't pretend this ship doesn't exist. Lisa was still studying the displays. There's something else here. Information about a threat. Something the predecessors were fighting. What kind of threat? Jake asked. Guardian's voice became dark. That is a story for another time. First, you must decide what to do with the knowledge you have gained. The Federation will not wait much longer for your report. Jake looked at his crew. Danny was human like him, but Pete was staring at the alien technology with wonder. Kethver looked troubled, and through the communication system, Jake could hear Zothera demanding to know what was happening. We need to tell them, Jake decided, but carefully. We need to prepare them for what this means. Are you sure? Danny asked. Once we tell them, there's no going back. Jake nodded. The predecessors trusted us with this knowledge. We have to trust others with it too. But as he prepared to contact the Federation, Jake wondered if he was making a terrible mistake. The ship around him hummed with power that could reshape the galaxy, and now he had to decide what to do with it. The message Jake sent to the Federation was simple and careful. He reported finding an ancient ship with advanced technology. He said they needed more time to study it before making a full report. He didn't mention that the ship only responded to humans, or that it claimed humans had once ruled the galaxy. But secrets don't stay secret for long in space. Within hours, ships began arriving at the Kepler 442 system. First came the Federation science vessel Explorer, commanded by Captain Luwei, a human from the Mars colonies. Then came the Zentari warship, Bloodclaw, followed by the Vorthok research ship, Mindseeker. Admiral Susan Walsh arrived 3 days later in the massive Earth Defense Force ship Liberty. She was a tough woman who had fought in the border wars and didn't like surprises. Captain Morrison, Admiral Walsh, said over the communication system, I want a full report on what you've found out there. Jake was still aboard the Inheritance with his team. They had been learning about the ship's systems, but every new discovery made things more complicated. The ship's weapons could destroy entire fleets. Its engines could cross the galaxy in days. Its computers held the secrets of creating life itself. Admiral, this is bigger than we thought, Jake replied. The ship is millions of years old, but its technology is far beyond anything we have. Who built it? Admiral Walsh asked. Jake looked at his crew. Danny gave him an encouraging nod. Pete was working at an engineering station that glowed when he touched it. Even Kethver seemed ready to hear the truth. Our ancestors, Jake said. Humans built this ship. We used to be called the predecessors, and we ruled the galaxy millions of years ago. The silence that followed was deafening. Jake could imagine the shock on the faces of the Federation captains listening to the communication. Finally, Admiral Walsh spoke. That's impossible. Humans are a young species. We've only been in space for a few hundred years. That's what we thought, Jake said. But the ship's records show otherwise. Modern humans are the descendants of an ancient human civilization that disappeared long ago. Captain Liu's voice came through the comm system. Captain Morrison, I need to see proof of these claims. The ship won't respond to non-humans, Jake explained. Only people with human DNA can operate its systems. This caused an uproar. Captain Neckmer of the Zentari ship was furious. This is a trick. Humans are trying to claim technology that belongs to all species. High Scientist Vrilton from the Vorthok ship was calmer, but equally concerned. If what you claim is true, this changes everything we know about galactic history. Guardian's voice spoke to Jake privately. They are coming aboard. Many ships, all demanding access to this vessel. Jake could see them on the ship's sensors. Dozens of Federation vessels surrounded the inheritance. Some were science ships, but many were warships. The situation was getting dangerous. Guardian, what happens if they try to force their way in? Jake asked. The ship will defend itself, Guardian replied. The predecessors did not want their legacy to fall into the wrong hands. Admiral Walsh contacted Jake again. Captain, I'm ordering you to return to your ship. We're sending a joint Federation team to study the alien vessel. It's not alien, Jake said. It's human, and it won't respond to a joint team. We'll see about that, Admiral Walsh said grimly. Jake watched on the screens as shuttle after shuttle left the Federation ships. They were all heading for the inheritance, filled with scientists and soldiers from different species. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Guardian, what should we do? He asked. The choice is yours, Guardian replied. You can allow them to board, or you can prevent them. The ship will obey your commands. Jake didn't want to start a war, but he also couldn't let the wrong people get control of the ship's weapons. Let them come to the airlocks, but don't let them inside until I say so. The first shuttle arrived at the main airlock. Jake could see through the ship's cameras that it carried a mixed team of Federation officers. When they tried to open the airlock, nothing happened. This is Commander Drake from the Federation Science Division, came a voice over the radio. Open this airlock immediately. Jake activated the ship's communication system. Commander, this is Captain Morrison. The ship's systems are very sensitive. I need to guide you through the process. Captain Morrison, you are interfering with a Federation investigation, came Admiral Walsh's voice. Stand down immediately. Jake looked at his crew. They were all watching him, waiting for his decision. Even Kethfer seemed to understand that. Jake was in an impossible position. I can't do that, Admiral, Jake said. This ship is too dangerous to let just anyone inside. Then we'll come in by force, Admiral Walsh replied. Jake watched as the Federation ships powered up their weapons. The Liberty alone carried enough firepower to destroy the inheritance. But when Jake looked at Guardian's interface, he saw that the ancient ship was not defenseless. Guardian, if they attack, what happens? Jake asked. The ship will protect itself and its crew, Guardian replied. But the predecessors did not want their children to fight each other. Suddenly, the ship's screens lit up with new information. Guardian was showing Jake the locations of dozens of other predecessor ships throughout the galaxy. Some were hidden, near major Federation worlds. Others were drifting in empty space, waiting to be found. There are 67 ships like this one, Guardian explained, all waiting for humans to activate them. If this ship is destroyed, the others will remain hidden forever. Jake realized that he wasn't just responsible for the inheritance, he was responsible for the future of humanity and the galaxy itself. Admiral Walsh, Jake said, I'm going to show you something that will change your mind about attacking this ship. Jake activated the ship's external displays. Suddenly, the hull of the inheritance lit up with star maps showing the locations of all the other predecessor ships. The Federation captains could see that there were ancient ships near their own homeworlds. My God, whispered Captain Lu Wei. There are dozens of them. The predecessors left these ships as a gift, Jake explained. but they will only activate for humans. If you destroy this ship, you destroy the key to all the others. Admiral Walsh was quiet for a long moment. Captain Morrison, I'm ordering you to bring that ship to Earth immediately. I can't do that either, Jake said. This ship doesn't belong to Earth. It belongs to all humanity. Then what do you suggest? Admiral Walsh asked. Jake looked at his crew again. Lisa was studying the ship's historical records. Pete was learning how the ancient technology worked. Danny was monitoring communications from the Federation fleet. They all seemed to trust his judgment. I suggest we work together, Jake said. The ship's knowledge is vast enough for everyone, but we need to be careful about how we use it. Captain Neckmer's angry voice came over the comm. Humans cannot be trusted with this power. They will use it to dominate other species. The predecessors were human, Jake replied, and they used their power to help other species grow and develop. We can do the same. Prove it, High Scientist, Vrilton challenged. Show us that you can be trusted. Jake walked to the command chair and sat down. The ship's systems connected with his mind, and suddenly, he could feel the power of the inheritance flowing through him. He could destroy the entire Federation fleet with a thought, or he could help them understand the truth. Guardian, Jake said aloud so everyone could hear. Show them the real history of the galaxy. The ship's external displays changed to show the rise and fall of the predecessor civilization. The Federation captains watched in amazement as the history of their own species unfolded before them. They saw how the predecessors had found primitive life on countless worlds and helped it evolve into the great civilizations of today. This is why the ship only responds to humans, Jake explained. We're the descendants of the people who built it. But that doesn't mean we're better than anyone else. It just means we have a responsibility to use this power wisely. Admiral Walsh finally spoke. Captain Morrison, I'm authorizing you to continue your study of the ship, but you will report everything you learn to Federation Command. Understood, Jake replied. But Admiral, there's something else you need to know. The predecessors didn't just disappear. They left because they were fighting something that might still be out there. As Jake said these words, the ship's systems suddenly detected movement in deep space. Something large was approaching the system, something that didn't match any known ship design. Captain, Danny said urgently. We're picking up a signal from the edge of the system. It's not Federation, and it's not from any known species. Jake felt Guardian's presence in his mind, and for the first time, the ancient AI seemed afraid. They have found us, Guardian said. The enemy the predecessors fought has returned. The unknown signal was getting stronger. Jake could see on the ship's sensors that something massive was moving toward their system. It was bigger than any ship he had ever seen, and it was moving faster than should be possible. Guardian, what is that thing? Jake asked. A herald, Guardian replied, and Jake could hear fear in the AI's voice. They are the scouts of the Devourers, the enemy that destroyed the predecessors. Admiral Walsh's voice came through the communication system. Captain Morrison, our sensors are picking up something approaching. What are you seeing? Jake looked at the displays showing the approaching object. It was still far away, but growing, larger every minute. It's a ship, but not like anything in our databases. Guardian says it's connected to the force that destroyed the predecessors. The Federation fleet around the inheritance began to move into defensive positions. Jake could see the Liberty and the other warships powering up their weapons, but Guardian was showing him information that made his blood run cold. The Federation fleet won't be able to stop it, Guardian said. Herald ships are designed to destroy entire civilizations. The predecessors fought them for thousands of years, before finally finding a way to drive them back. How? Jake asked. By working together, every species in the galaxy united under predecessor leadership. It was the only way to generate enough power to fight the Devourers. Lisa was reading the ship's historical records about the ancient war. Captain, This is incredible. The predecessors built these ships specifically to fight the Devourers, but it took hundreds of ships working together to defeat just one herald. Pete was studying the ship's weapon systems. These weapons are unlike anything I've ever seen. They don't just destroy matter, they seem to attack the very structure of reality itself. Danny was monitoring communications from the Federation fleet. Captain, the other ships are demanding to know what's happening. They want to know if we're under attack. Jake made a decision that would change everything. Guardian, open a channel to all Federation ships. I need to tell them the truth. Jake, are you sure? Lisa asked. If you tell them about the Devourers, it could cause panic throughout the galaxy. If I don't tell them, they'll all die when that herald arrives, Jake replied. The communication system connected Jake to every ship in the Federation fleet. He could hear the voices of dozens of captains and crew members, all waiting for information. This is Captain Morrison, Jake began. I need to tell you something that will be hard to believe. The approaching ship is not from any known species. It's a herald, a scout ship belonging to an ancient enemy called the Devourers. Silence followed his words. Then Captain Nekmer's angry voice cut through the quiet. More human lies. You're trying to scare us into giving you control. I wish I was lying, Jake said. Guardian, show them the historical records. The Inheritance's external displays lit up with images from the ancient war. The Federation captains watched in horror as they saw entire star systems being consumed by the Devour. Billions of lives lost in moments. Whole civilizations wiped out as if they had never existed. The predecessors fought this enemy for thousands of years, Jake continued. They built ships like this one to fight them, but it took every species in the galaxy working together to drive them back. Admiral Walsh's voice was shaken. Captain Morrison, are you saying that thing is coming here to destroy us? The Herald is testing our defenses, Guardian explained through the communication system. If it finds us weak, it will call for the main Devourer fleet. They will come to consume this entire region of space. Hi, Scientist Frilton from the Vorthok ship asked. What do we do? How do we fight something like that? Jake looked at the approaching herald on his screens. It was now close enough to see clearly. The ship was dark and twisted, looking more like a living creature than a machine. Strange energy flowed along its hull, and Jake could feel something cold and alien pressing against his mind. Guardian, can this ship fight the Herald alone? Jake asked. No, Guardian replied. The Inheritance is powerful, but it was designed to work with other ships. The predecessors knew that no single vessel could defeat the Devourers. Then we need the other ships, Jake said. All 67 of them. But they will only activate for humans, Guardian reminded him. And there are not enough humans in the galaxy to crew all of them. Jake had an idea. What if we don't crew them? What if we use the Federation ships to help power them? Lisa looked up from her station. Captain, that's brilliant. If we can link the Federation fleet to the predecessor ships, we might be able to activate their systems. Pete was already working on the technical aspects. It would be like using the Federation ships as batteries. The predecessor technology could draw power from our ship's reactors. But there was a problem. Captain Nekmer was not convinced. I will not let humans control Zentari vessels. This is a trick to make us slaves. Vekmer, look at that thing approaching us, Jake said, pointing to the herald on the display. In 1 hour, it will be close enough to attack. Do you want to fight it alone, or do you want to work with us? The Zentari captain was quiet for a moment. Jake could see the blood claw on his sensors, its weapons ready but pitifully small compared to the approaching herald. What do you need? Us to do? Us to do? Lechimar finally asked. Link your ship's power systems to the predecessor vessels, Jake explained. Guardian can show you how to do it safely, Admiral Walsh interrupted. Captain Morrison, even if this works, how do we know you won't use this power against us later? Jake stood up from the command chair and walked to the center of the bridge. Because I give you my word. And because if we don't work together now, there won't be a later. The next hour was frantic. Guardian provided instructions to all the Federation ships on how to link their power systems to the dormant predecessor vessels scattered throughout the galaxy. Jake watched as dozens of ancient ships began to wake up, their hulls glowing with renewed energy. But the Herald was getting closer. It was now close enough for the Federation sensors to detect its massive size. It was easily 100 times larger than the Inheritance, and it was radiating energy that made space itself seem to twist and bend. "Captain," Danny reported, "the Herald is sending out some kind of signal. It's not directed at us, but at something far away." "It's calling for reinforcements," Guardian said grimly. "If we don't stop it soon, the main Devourer fleet will arrive." Jake sat back down in the command chair and felt the ship's systems connect with his mind. But now he could also feel the other predecessor ships throughout the galaxy. Each one was connected to a Federation vessel, drawing power and sharing it with the network. "All ships, this is Captain Morrison," Jake said. "We're going to attack the Herald together. Follow my lead and trust your Federation partners." The battle that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. The combined fleet of Federation ships and awakened predecessor vessels moved as one, guided by Jake's connection to the network. Weapons that hadn't been fired in millions of years came to life, sending streams of energy that tore through space itself. The Herald fought back with weapons that defied understanding. It created tears in reality that swallowed entire asteroids. It fired beams of dark energy that aged everything they touched by thousands of years. It summoned creatures made of pure darkness that attacked the smaller ships, but the combined fleet held together. Zentari warriors fought alongside human engineers. Vorthok scientists shared their knowledge with Calarian diplomats. For the first time in galactic history, every species worked as one. The battle lasted 3 hours. When it was over, the Herald was destroyed, but the cost was heavy. 7 Federation ships were lost, and 2 of the predecessor vessels were badly damaged as the debris from the Herald drifted away. Jake felt something change in the galaxy. The other predecessor ships were no longer just machines. They had become something more, connected to the crews of the Federation vessels that had powered them. "Guardian," Jake asked, "what happens now?" "Now you face the real test," Guardian replied. "The predecessors always knew this day would come. The question is, will humanity be worthy of the power they left behind?" Jake looked at the mixed crew around him. Lisa was working with alien scientists to understand the Herald's technology. Pete was helping repair the damaged ships. Danny was coordinating communications across the entire fleet. Even Kethver seemed to accept that they were all part of something bigger now. "We'll be worthy," Jake said, "because we won't face it alone." But as he spoke, Jake knew that the real challenges were just beginning. The Herald had been defeated, but the main Devourer fleet was still out there, somewhere in the darkness between galaxies, and humanity had just taken its first step toward reclaiming the legacy of the predecessors. The question was, what would they do with that power? 3 months after the battle with the Herald, Jake Morrison stood in the council chamber of the newly built Unity Station. Representatives from every species in the galaxy had gathered to decide the future of the predecessor ships and the threat of the Devourers. The station itself was a marvel of cooperation. Human engineers had worked with Vorthok scientists to build it, using both Federation technology and ancient predecessor designs. It orbited a neutral star system, belonging to no single species, but serving all of them. "The question before us is simple," said Ambassador Helen Carter, representing Earth. "Who controls the predecessor fleet?" The chamber erupted in arguments. The Zentari delegate, War Chief Kromtar, slammed his fist on the table. The ships were built for war. They should be controlled by warriors. High Scientist Morvin, from the Vorthok delegation, disagreed. "These ships contain scientific knowledge beyond measure. They should be studied, not used as weapons. Jake watched the debate from his position at the center of the chamber. As the captain who had first awakened the inheritance, he had been asked to lead the discussion. But he was learning that leadership was more complicated than commanding a ship. The ships won't work without human commanders, Jake said, trying to bring order to the room. Guardian has made that clear, but that doesn't mean humans should rule the galaxy. Then what do you suggest? Asked Ambassador Veltar from the Calarian delegation. Jake looked around the chamber at the faces of dozens of species. Some were angry, some were afraid, and some were hopeful. They all shared one thing. They were all descendants of the predecessors. All part of the same great family that had been scattered across the galaxy. I suggest we do what the predecessors did, Jake said. We work together. Over the following weeks, Jake worked with the delegates to create a new system of government. It would be called the United Galaxy Alliance, and it would be led by a council with representatives from every species. The predecessor ships would be commanded by humans, but they would serve the needs of all species. But not everyone was happy with this arrangement. Senator Rick Coleman from Earth had arrived at the station with a group of human supremacists who believed that humans should rule the galaxy by force. We are the descendants of the predecessors, Coleman declared at a public meeting. We built this galaxy. We should control it. Jake faced Coleman in front of hundreds of delegates. The predecessors had the power to rule the galaxy, but they chose to help other species grow instead. That's what made them great. They were fools, Coleman shouted. They gave away their power and look what happened. They were destroyed by the Devourers. They weren't destroyed, Jake corrected. They evolved. Guardian, show them. The chamber's displays activated, showing new information that Guardian had recently revealed. The predecessors hadn't been killed by the Devourers. They had transformed themselves into pure energy, becoming one with the galaxy itself to continue the fight against the ancient enemy. The predecessors are still with us, Guardian's voice filled the chamber. They exist in the space between stars, in the energy that flows through all living things. They guide us still, waiting for their descendants to be ready for the final battle. The revelation stunned the delegates. High Scientist Morven stood up slowly. You're saying the predecessors are still alive? In a way, Guardian replied. They gave up their physical forms to become something greater. They are the reason the Devourers have not returned until now, but their power is fading, and soon, the final battle will come. Jake felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. How long do we have? The Herald sent a signal before it died, Guardian explained. The main Devourer fleet is coming. They will arrive in this galaxy within 1 year. The chamber fell silent. 1 year to prepare for an enemy that had destroyed the most advanced civilization in galactic history. It seemed impossible, but Jake remembered the battle with the Herald. They had won because they worked together, combining the strengths of every species. The Zentari had provided courage and fighting spirit. The Vorthok had contributed scientific knowledge. The Calarians had kept the alliance together with their diplomatic skills. Even the smaller species had played important roles. We can do this, Jake said, but only if we truly work as one. The following months were a time of incredible change. The United Galaxy Alliance grew stronger as more species joined. The predecessor ships were paired with Federation vessels, creating hybrid fleets that combined ancient power with modern innovation. Lisa Parker was appointed as the head of the new science division, working with researchers from every species to understand predecessor technology. Pete Collins led the engineering teams that modified Federation ships to work with the ancient vessels. Danny Brooks became the head of communications, ensuring that all species could work together effectively. Even Kethfer found his place in the new alliance. The Zentari warrior was appointed as the head of military training, teaching Federation officers how to fight alongside the predecessor ships. Jake himself was elected as the first Supreme Commander of the United Galaxy Defense. Force. It was a title he had never wanted, but one he accepted because someone had to make the hard decisions that lay ahead. The test came sooner than expected. Guardian detected the arrival of Devourer scouts at the edge of the galaxy. They were not like the Herald. These were smaller, faster ships that could appear and disappear without warning. "They're testing our defenses," Guardian explained during a council meeting, "looking for weaknesses before the main fleet arrives." Jake looked at the star map showing the scout attacks. They were hitting systems all across the galaxy, but they were also being driven off by the combined fleets of the Alliance. "We're stronger than they expected," Jake realized. "The predecessors never had this many species working together." "That is correct," Guardian said. "The predecessors tried to fight the Devourers alone, with only a few allied species, but you have united the entire galaxy." The final battle came 6 months later. The Devourer fleet emerged from dark space like a plague of shadows. There were thousands of ships, each one larger and more terrible than the Herald. They moved toward the galactic core, consuming everything in their path. But they were met by the largest fleet in galactic history. Hundreds of predecessor ships, linked with thousands of Federation vessels, all working together under human command. The battle raged across dozens of star systems, with both sides using weapons that could destroy planets. Jake commanded the fleet from the bridge of the inheritance, but he was not alone. Representatives from every species stood beside him, their ships connected to his through the predecessor network. He could feel their courage, their determination, their hope for the future. The battle lasted for days. Many ships were lost, and many heroes died. But slowly, the combined fleet began to push the Devourers back. The ancient enemy had not expected such unity, such cooperation between species. In the end, it was not superior technology that won the battle, but the power of the Alliance itself. The predecessors had left one final gift: the ability for their descendants to combine their strengths into something greater than the sum of their parts. As the last Devourer ship was destroyed, Jake felt a presence in his mind. It was warm and familial, like the voice of a parent welcoming their child home. "Well done," the voice said. "You have become what we always hoped you would be." Jake realized he was hearing the voice of the predecessors themselves, speaking through the network of ships and minds that had defeated the Devourers. "What happens now?" Jake asked. "Now, you continue to grow," the voice replied. "The galaxy is yours to protect and guide. Use the power we left you wisely, and remember that all life is precious." The voice faded, but Jake knew the predecessors would always be with them, watching over their descendants as they built a better future. Years later, Jake stood on the observation deck of Unity Station and watched ships from dozens of species working together in the space around the station. Human captains commanded predecessor vessels, but they served crews made up of every species in the galaxy. The Alliance had grown stronger, not through conquest, but through cooperation. Lisa joined him at the window. "Hard to believe it's been 5 years since we found the inheritance." "Sometimes it feels like yesterday," Jake replied. "Sometimes it feels like a lifetime." "Do you think we made the right choices?" Lisa asked. Jake watched a group of young officers, humans and Vorthok and others, working together to repair a damaged ship. They laughed and joked as they worked, treating each other as friends rather than aliens. "I think the predecessors would be proud," Jake said. "We didn't use their power to rule the galaxy. We used it to unite it." Guardian's voice came through the station's communication system. "Captain Morrison, we're receiving a signal from the Outer Rim. It appears to be from another galaxy, requesting contact." Jake smiled. The galaxy was vast, and there were always new challenges ahead. But whatever came next, they would face it together. "Put them through, Guardian," Jake said. "Let's see what they have to say." As the message played, Jake realized that the story of humanity and their allies was just beginning. The predecessors had given them the tools to build a better future, but it was up to them to use those tools wisely. The galaxy was finally united, and it was ready for whatever came next.